Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Happy Yappy HD, and that is All Things Pet, brought to you by the Florida Veterinary League, and we are so happy to have back our good friend, Barbara Lipton.
Thank you.
Now, we were all so worried about you. You know, we were going to have to just mention it.
Yes.
That you were drunk in a brawl. And
I wish I had had that much fun. I was actually at the AAA office planning a vacation, and I stood up and fractured my hip. And I understand that happens to women my age sometimes.
who even knew that could happen?
Women my age have heard from their doctors that it can happen.
It's I guess so. It's so hard to imagine that because you're so young and full of life, and you have so much more energy than I ever hoped to have.
I have been very active. I've made a career of trying to be as active as possible, so it was a real shock for me. Yes, it was a real shock. But yeah, I fractured my left hip, and I was at Indian River Medical for, I don't know, 6 days, and then I was at Palm Garden Rehab for 18 days. And I've been home now almost 2.5 weeks, and I've been off of a walker 4 days. So I'm still gimping around, still going to physical therapy, but glad to be on my feet and moving, because a broken hip can polish you off at my age.
It's crazy. So what's on my mind, and I think everybody else's in Vero, is how much, because you're so active, you're constantly moving. How much did they have to sedate and restrain you to keep you down and in your bed?
I was pretty drugged.
Yeah?
Some pretty drugs that I had never tried before that I did not like.
And that says a lot of people.
Actually, the pain
She's a flower
was,
child.
the pain was enough to do it. I was pretty immobile for several days. But thank God for physical therapy, and here in Vero Beach we have some wonderful physical therapists who taught me first how to get out of a bed, and second how to walk with a walker and develop my upper body strength so I could manage that. And then how to begin to walk with a walker and how to walk without a walker.
Are you taking that vacation pretty soon?
Probably not until next summer. I was planning on going up to Kentucky to the Kentucky Horse Park, and I was taking 2 little girls that I mentor who are 8 and 9 with me. So the good part is that it didn't happen while we were on the trip, while I had an 8-year-old, 9-year-old with me, because that could have been
You could have always blamed it on them.
Could have been much more complex getting them safely home while I was in the condition I was in.
Oh, absolutely. Oh gosh, and thank God for your husband. You know,
Yeah, Bob's been great. Bob's
same.
been
Took care of all the dogs.
He took care of all the dogs at our house, and I do, as you know, house sitting, and I had several house sitting jobs stacked up, and
He doesn't usually do that.
He doesn't usually do that, but he did it. He did it.
Thank God for Bob.
Yep, he did good. He did good.
So now you're, I don't know, you're not really back at work, but
I've not gone back to work yet. I'm scheduled to go back. I think it's the 28th, a week from this coming Monday, another 10, 12 days.
So great. So in the meantime, you can sit and you can tell us about all kinds of stuff for pets. And what are we talking about today?
Well, what I'd like to talk about, because it's really a passion of mine, and I know it's a passion of yours, is what happens to my dog. What would happen to my dog if I didn't have my husband, and if something really did happen to me?
Right.
I have dogs. Where would they go? Who would take care of them? Would they end up at the Humane Society and put to sleep because nobody wanted them because they're older?
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes. And it's become...
Or God forbid, something happens to the both of you while you're driving.
Exactly. And what happens to our pets. And I've been thinking about it for the last few hours, well, I guess since yesterday when we talked about whether this was going to be our topic or not, is I have a little dog. Her name is Margie. She's 6 years old, and I have had her since she's a puppy. And that is the first puppy that I have raised in 37 years.
Wow.
But I have never been dogless.
Hmm.
So for me, rescuing dogs that need a home has been such a way of life that I don't even think about it much. And I know that it was 37 years because when I got Margie, I called my nephew in North Carolina and I said, Billy, I have a picture of that Airedale that we had as a puppy when you were in diapers. And you and she are under a lawn chair together. How old are you now? And that was the previous puppy I had had. But I'd always had more than one dog. The last 4 dogs that Bob and I have acquired have all been dogs that someone owned, that they either couldn't take care of them any longer for health reasons, or we've just acquired one dog. She actually just officially became ours about 10 days ago. Her owner passed away. But I had taken care of the dog a few times while the owner was in and out of hospital situations, and she had asked if anything happened to her, if we would take the dog, and we said, of course. And she's recently passed away, and so Daisy May is officially ours now. And I think that people on both sides of it worry. What's going to happen to my dog if something happens to me? And are these good matches? I can say we've been really lucky. I think we've had some really good matches.
Oh, right, and you have to remember, you know, you can't just write it down under the wall, okay, so-and-so gets this. You've got to think 2 steps ahead. First, you have to ask them if that's okay with them.
Absolutely.
You know, you can't, because a lot of family, you know, a lot of times elderly people or anyone just assumes their kids are going to take their dogs.
That's not necessarily so.
I've learned firsthand from that,
No.
you know.
I remember one of the first dogs that I acquired through that was my father's dog. And I remember thinking after my father passed away when I had his little Tippy dog, it was like, I don't remember ever buying in for this job. It was like I was taking in my sibling who wasn't really my sibling, and I was raising my own kids and had my own dogs. But of course I took the dog, but it was like...
Right. But not everyone's able to.
You're not always able to, or you don't always have the finances to. 3 of the dogs we currently have to go to the groomer, which is an expense that is, again, over and above the vaccines, the heartworm prevention, all of the food, all of the stuff. But if you make it known to your friends and family, or even to organizations, Blue Ribbon Charities, certainly if you could put it in writing that you want them to care for the dog, make a donation for the dog's care. I know Halo Rescue, I know the Humane Society, Dogs and Cats Forever, all have in place kind of different steps you can take to have them care for your pet if something happens to you.
Right, and one of the things that the Blue Ribbon Charitable Foundation does, which I hadn't really ever talked about because I'm not really sure if we could handle an influx like that, but what we do is we have people set up a trust for their pets, and they entrust that pet to me personally. You know, it has to go to an individual, not a corporation or a nonprofit. But it goes to me in particular. But the way that there's, you know, money in the trust, and it's legally drawn up by a lawyer, and when that person passes away, their dogs come to me, and it's spelled out, you know, sometimes detailed directives on how they want their dog groomed, or where they want them to sleep and things like that. And, you know, it's certainly never a problem. And yeah, and it's also agreed, some of the trusts are fairly sizable. So I always make sure they put in there that after the dog passes, if there's still money left over, that reverts back to the Blue Ribbon Charitable Foundation.
Sure.
So that, you know, it just keeps the money going to people that need it.
Exactly,
And,
exactly.
yeah.
And that's why I really feel really drawn to that, because I know that that's so important.
Yeah.
On both sides of it, the people who have animals that are not well, that need care, that can't afford the care, and these other animals. And some of the animals are elderly. This little Daisy May that we just got is 9 years old. But that isn't always true. A friend of mine, Rosemary is her name, acquired a little dog because of a similar circumstance, and that little dog, Princess is her name, is now only 2 years old. And Rosemary has actively found an adoptive home for this little dog where she'll be the princess,
Right.
which is great.
Another good example, just recently, a very good client of ours, very good friends, he was the caretaker for his wife who had, she's moderate stages of Alzheimer's and dementia, and he all of a sudden passed away. So now she can't really handle the affairs. And I'll tell you, I want to live in this neighborhood where she lives, because literally all the neighbors around her rallied in. They're all going over. They're driving her. They're making sure she's okay. They brought the dog initially over to Blue Ribbon Boarding for us to take care of it while they're in this transition, and in which we are. And then she started sending in people to adopt the dog while she was calling us, telling us I don't want anybody to have the dog. So it puts you in a weird position. That's why everything has to be
It
written
has to
out.
be in writing.
So,
Absolutely.
luckily I understood her condition, probably a year earlier, because they were good clients. And so I just said to them, just write up the note, have her sign it, and because obviously she can't take care of the dog.
Right.
But she had 4 neighbors all around her that all wanted the dog. So she'll still be able to see him all the time.
That's great.
I don't know if she'll understand he's not hers anymore. And I'm not even sure how much longer she'll be able to stay at home, by herself anymore.
But still, it'll be wonderful for her while she's able to know that. One of the first dogs that Bob and I together got was from a neighbor that lived down the street from us. And as Marion had Parkinson's, and as she became more and more frail, her little dog, I forgot the first dog's name, but her little dog passed away. And she wasn't going to get another dog. And we said, Marion, because she walked the dog. And with Parkinson's, her exercising herself was so important.
Absolutely.
So we convinced her to get another dog. We went with her to the Humane Society to adopt a little Skipper Key she selected. And Skipper lived with her 5 houses from us for maybe 2 years. And as she became more frail and less able to do much besides walk to the mailbox, we took Skipper to our house, 5 houses away. And when we would go out in the morning for the paper, we would put Skipper on a leash, walk him down, let him in the house. He could spend a few hours with her. And so she still had plenty of contact. And then as she deteriorated, he was there less and less. This little Daisy May that I'm talking about, Daisy's owner was in a hospice situation for almost 5 months.
Wow.
And Bob took Daisy twice a week to visit Carol at the hospice. And at one point, Daisy suddenly became Bob's dog, not Carol's dog anymore.
Yeah.
And Carol kind of acknowledged that. She said, I see Daisy really as your dog.
That had to make her feel better.
Yes, I think it did. I think it did make her feel better that Daisy really was fitting in the household and really, but still happy to get in the car and go visit her.
Yeah.
But Bob was great about it. And that was all while I was recuperating as well. Some of the other things that Bob did was run this dog to visit.
But that just drives the point home. Get a lawyer, put everything in writing.
Everything in writing.
Put it in and make copies of it.
Yes.
Make sure your lawyer has a copy. Make sure you have a copy in your safe or a place at home.
Yeah.
And whoever you're bequeathing anything to.
Yes, needs to be
have
legally
a copy
taken
also.
care of. Now, in this particular case, we got nothing but the dog. And at one point, we were given a key to the house and told to go pick up the dog's things because Carol was in this hospice situation. But really, with Daisy, all we did, to say if people are kind of afraid of this whole Boyer thing and thinking this is beyond them, is all we did is we had her notify Florida Veterinary League where she went with the dog for her regular vaccines. They put it as an alert on the computer that if anything were to happen to her, that dog became ours.
Oh, absolutely.
And then in an alert on my file that I was accepting this responsibility. So it was really an easy transition. I just went to Florida Veterinary League. I said, okay, this has taken place. And I got a county license in my name and address.
What happens to your dogs if anything, God forbid, happens to the both of you? Seeing how we're telling everybody else.
Yes, I really probably should do more than I have done now that I have more dogs.
I have my biggest concern. I've got everything written. It's in my will. It's in my safe, and we have.
I think, yeah, we've got it because
Several
there's
animals.
Bob and I, and you, of course, you and Drew. But yeah, we probably should put something, if something were to happen to both of us at the same time, I think we maybe
Right.
need to re-look at that.
Because as much as Drew and I travel, my big concern though is my monkeys. Because they don't accept strangers or people they don't know.
Right.
And you gotta remember this with dogs and
Absolutely.
cats too, don't forget cats.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Birds and
you know.
birds. I know somebody who got a bird, her uncle passed away, and she got a parrot that was 35 years old, and I've known Carol for quite a few years, and she still has that parrot. They can live very long lives.
Very, very long. So
Yes.
that's all things you have to consider too. And you know, in my case, I'm going to have to bequeath that dog. I have one of my girls that works at Blue Ribbon. They love her. They remember her as a baby. She comes into the house, take care of them when we're gone. I can't have anyone else do it because they'll get all excited, their blood sugar will drop. I mean, it's basically, you know, it could be a death
nightmare.
sentence.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to have to make sure I leave enough money so
Sure.
that she can live
Sure.
someplace that can take care of them
Sure.
properly.
Absolutely.
And she loves them too.
That's great.
You know, you got to always have a plan B.
Yep.
So, you know, this is all very, very important stuff. And one day I'm going to have soon, I'm going to have a lawyer come in
Well, that'd be
just
really
to talk
interesting.
about how simple it really is. It's nothing to be scared or freaked out about. And it's not always a huge expense.
No.
Sometimes it's a matter of just adding it into
Like a
your
little
current
addendum
will.
if you put it on something. And I think, you know, a lot of people, I think, don't have wills. I think they kind of ignore that whole process of
And it's not just,
doing it, but.
you know, and you think, sometimes people think, oh, well, I don't have anything, I don't need a will. But that's not true. I mean, people that don't have wills, I don't care if you're living out of a box.
You have
You
stuff.
always have something.
Mhm.
So it's very important for somebody to be in charge of that.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to be poor. I've had friends with millions and millions of dollars, very, very wealthy. He passed away, there was an updated will, and it'll probably take $2-3 million in
To settle it
lawyer
all.
fees fighting it. I saw an estate go through $10 million once. A friend of mine was the executor on it, and there were his kids, her kids, a kid they had together. None of them wanted anybody to have anything, I guess, had money in their own right, but the point is, $10 million in the estate after everything was sold, gone to lawyers. The lawyers got every single penny of it. So,
And if the lawyers don't get it, the government will, because on the other side, the government takes.
right, and then
possession.
you've got, you know, the, you know, situation too, where you can get saddled with a judge that just is ineffective and won't roll,
Absolutely. Right.
and just won't roll, so. But that's all our time today, and
Well,
this
that's
was
been
such
really
an,
fun. Thank
it
you.
was an important subject,
It is an
and
important subject, and I think we need to address it, you know, again, at another, you know, from a little different angle. Again, I think it's a really important subject.
absolutely. And thank you so much, y'all, for tuning in, and don't forget, the proceeds from this show, all of our sponsors, everything we do, goes to the Blue Ribbon Charitable Foundation, helping people who can't afford medical care for their pets. Also, it goes to helping the canine police dogs here in Indian River County. And something we've got new coming up, which I don't think Barbara knows yet, because you were taking that vacation to the hospital, you know, hooked up to all the good stuff. And we've got a Yappy Hour event coming up. We haven't had one in about a year. It's so cool. It's going to be at Dyer Subaru, one of our big sponsors. And it's going to be there. And we've got the Bobby Owen Band. Now, this is a kick butt band, I'm telling you. They are, people come from all over Florida just to hear them. They're amazing, they're great, and they volunteered to be at our fundraiser. So it's going to be October 17th from 4 to 7. We're going to have a pet costume contest. We checked all the calendars. It's not interfering with anyone else's events unless they planned it after us. But it's going to be October 17th from 4 to 7. We've got music, we've got food. we're going to have a pet and people costume contest, which is going to be fun. Lots of little prizes and things like that to go along. So definitely join us. You're going to hear more about it. Follow us on Facebook. Happy Yappy HD is our page. I'm Martin Lavender, and this is Happy Yappy HD Show. So thank you so much, and catch us next week.